Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
Cutting edge.
So now we're going to go ahead and hit up Waltz's favorite. The
UFC.
Where is that one?
Really? Really? So...
Oh, Joe. Oh, wow.
Used to be a fan of the UFC, right?
I still am.
And I know Joe used to be a bigger fan of the UFC. So what is it about the UFC now that... so you're still a fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still watch it.
So you do. When's the last UFC fight you watched?
This past Saturday when it was the prelims.
Oh, you watched the prelims.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So did you see the Robbie Lawler fight?
No, I mean, see, that's what the deal is. I'm not that into it to you where I remember names, you know. So I'll be watching it, and then I switch in and out. I'll be honest, I'll just switch in and out. But I do watch some of the fights.
Here's what I see the problem with the UFC is that there's less name recognition. There's not that, the Iceman or, Rampage or, whoever else the big names were.
And then they've created so many different weight classes, and then now it opens up to so many different fighters.
And they do a pay-per-view every month. Is that maybe a little bit of overkill?
I don't care.
So, and I think you guys bring up good points because not only do they do that, they also do Fight Night, right? They got the Contender Series, or even doing the Ultimate Fighter. So, yeah, if you look in the past, we didn't get to see as many fights. So when we did see them, we're seeing really the creme de la creme. Right. Did I say that right? I don't know, but
creme de la creme.
Yes.
There's more of a build-up.
And you're right because they didn't have as many. So did it get a little bit watered down? Yes, but I got to thinking about this after I watched this UFC. If you guys think back, Scott and I will text about watching these fights from time to time, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm kid you not, when I really started thinking about it, I was like, you know what? The last several UFC fights, if you look at my text, we're not exaggerating. Like, these have been really good fights. So I feel like for a little while now, and I hadn't really caught on, like, the UFC's putting on some really good fights. They're getting away from those guys just laying on top of each other, and I think that's what started to kill it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't see that as much anymore because they know Dana doesn't like those fighters. And so we're starting to see better fights.
Yeah, I almost feel like, so they're just not on pay-per-view, but they're constantly on like regular different channels. And then when I'm just flicking through and I see it pop up, I'm thinking, well, how old is that one, or is that new, or who are these guys? So when you and Ken talk about it, that's great. That's your guys' thing. But when I'm listening in, it's like the names you're given.
I'm with you on that. Like the names. Now, I will say the name that is starting to catch on to me a little bit is this Bo Nickal.
Nichols, yes.
Bo Nickal.
Yeah. So, I agree with you on that.
You guys want?
So, when Conor just looked like, it was on the Ultimate Fighter, and Conor just looked like he was just like a figurehead. He was just there marketing himself.
And see, I did watch the Ultimate Fighter, which is
the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah,
I did watch the first two episodes.
You watched the first two episodes,
because you mentioned it, and I happened to flick through channels. Like, let me watch this, and the second one I watched it, but then get to watching the third, I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. So
did you notice how Conor, like when he comes out, he's doing all the this and that. And it's almost like he's marketing himself. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
Obviously, his team is 0-7, so he's not.
And the UFC, because he's the big draw, they're marketing him, right?
So let me ask you something. So that when you mentioned in the text message, you said Conor is like 0-7. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. So he didn't have not one fighter that won. But I'm thinking, so what happens?
So he has one more chance. So there's each coach has 8 guys on their team, right? So his first 7, they all lost.
Right.
There's one that should have won, but
what happens if he loses all 8?
If he loses all 8, he just gets his ass kicked and it looks bad. But nothing happens to him, right? So anyways, so they're supposed to be fighting Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor. It's starting to look like that fight may never happen, right?
Isn't that the whole point of the show? They're supposed to fight at the end, right?
It was
at a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that is the whole thing. So Conor will do a big disservice to the UFC if he doesn't fight. And the thing is he hasn't jumped into the USADA testing pool yet, right? So that leads a lot of people to believe that he's still on some type of drug performance enhancing drugs, right? Because in order to be able to fight, you have to be in that testing pool, I think, for so many. I don't know how long it is, but he has not jumped into the testing pool yet. So there's a lot of people thinking that fight may never happen. But I'll say this. I realize that I think the UFC is in a lot better position than we think, right? they're a lot bigger internationally right now than they've ever been. So as a company, they're doing really well. I think that they're actually putting on lately some of the best fights that they've ever had, which brings me to UFC 290. For those of you that watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Waltz, you may have caught it, but Robbie Lawler, he was the final fight on the prelims. Fought a guy by the name of Nico Price. He was the favorite. What was pretty epic is Robbie Lawler came out, and it looked like he rode back the clock 10, 15 years ago.
So that's a name I know.
I
Robbie
do
Lawler.
remember Robbie Lawler. Yeah.
So
And when you said that he turned that back to clock, I'm thinking, okay, he is an old school fighter. Am I right?
yes,
Yeah,
okay. He was a champ at one time.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that win, lose, or draw,
He's gonna give you a show.
you're gonna be entertained. He's gonna put on a show, right? Here's what he's most popular for, and this is why you guys probably know him. I touched you. I do that sometimes.
Yeah, you do that every episode. You either touch me or
That was
you
your
smack
first-
the shit out
that
of me
was your
for some
first-
reason.
hey, that was your
And
first
I'm not even
comfortable
part of the
touch.
conversation. I'm just sitting here minding my
He
own
likes
business.
it.
And then you smacked it. Bro, you hit me in my arm, bro. Bro, stop
Right.
punching me in my arm.
Right. I like that he stuck up for
You woke
himself
up-
during quarterback.
You woke up the wrong motherfucker,
Yes,
T.I.
I
You
did,
woke up the
right?
wrong motherfucker, T.I.
All right, I'll take it easy. So, man,
Those vodkas are starting to set in.
a little bit, huh? So we were just talking about. Was we still talking about Connor's team just now, or did we kind of move right
No,
past
man,
that?
we were talking about
about,
Lawler
Robbie.
and then.
Oh yeah,
right.
thank you. So
Yeah.
so here's why I think you know Robbie Lawler. He is the one that put the Diaz brothers on the map.
Okay.
He's why we know who the Diaz brothers are. When he fought Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler was the guy. This is the next guy that's going to be the champion. Diaz was supposed to be one of those tune-up fights, right? Diaz came in and knocked him out in the first round, which is what put the Diaz brothers on the map. And that, to me, is what makes Robbie Lawler the guy that he is in the UFC, because
Man,
people know
he's going to be a Hall of Famer, you think?
first time ballot Hall of Famer. Like, there's no questions asked about that. No question. He's one of the pioneers in the sport. There were some other really good fights at UFC 290, by the way. Every single fight on the card was great. We're not going to get into detail of all of them, but I do want to talk about a couple of the fights.
Oh, man.
Right, and you're disappointed. I understand that.
Wasn't me.
So we already talked about so going back to the Bo Nickal versus Val Woodburn, right? So watch that fight if you haven't. Pull it up. Watch the highlights. It was pretty epic. I mean,
You know, the way you described that fight and then the way you've been like leading up to him, I heard Bo Nickal and I made fun of Bo Quarters, whatever. You know what? I am going to check him out.
Good one,
I am.
buddy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I am going to check him out.
and so here's the thing: no one had any idea whether this guy could really strike or not. And I'm here to tell everybody right now, this guy is the real deal. He could strike. He could wrestle.
What's his weight class?
Oh man, well, you gotta ask me hard questions, man. I think he's middleweight.
Oh, man.
I think he's
Is he
middleweight.
fat or is he skinny?
It's like Walt said, they have so many weight classes.
That's
like,
true.
Hey, he's not like a heavyweight or anything. He's like
No. I think he's middleweight. So we'll put a correction up if he's not a middleweight.
I see
But
a big X coming over your head,
There
buddy.
might be. Oh, if you watched the last episode, you thought there was going to be an X, and there was actually a check mark. I threw out some random fact that I didn't know if I was going to be right on, and I was. But yeah, I know. It turns out, and I didn't know this, Bo Nickal's mom is a boxing coach. So after you watch
I think you said
that
that before.
fight,
You did say that,
you
yeah.
said
it
that.
makes a
You
lot
said
of
that.
sense now, because you're like, no, this guy knows how to box. He just hasn't had to show it yet, but he showed it this last
Could
fight.
you imagine him getting in trouble when he was young? And you know, me growing up, I got hit by wooden spoons, metal spoons, those big Mexican metal spoons, belts, chanclas,
Dude.
shoes.
Oh, the chanclas?
Seriously? I did too, man.
Yeah.
my
Dude.
mom, anything my mom could grab when she was
anything
mad.
that was near him, I'm like, oh, here it goes going across the room. Pots and pans, I did not, but my brother G got his head got lopsided after a good pan on his head. And then my mom, I had a little guitar from Mexico. My mom busted my guitar over my brother's head too. So
What?
could you
G or,
imagine?
Saul?
No, it was G. Could you imagine? Was Nichols?
What a G.
Yeah, Bo Nickal's mom.
Bo Nichols' mama, like, she don't need weapons. She knock his ass out, and then he wake up the next morning like, what happened? You talk back? Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, on UFC 290, every fight was good. Dricus du Plessis, I think that's how you say his name, this white guy from South Africa. He knocked out Robert Whittaker in round 2. For those of you that aren't familiar with Robert Whittaker, that's a huge deal. The only person Robert Whittaker's ever lost to was Adesanya, the champ, okay? So he won. a very interesting encounter took place. The moment he won, he jumped out of the cage and he goes over to shake Donald Trump's hand, and he shakes who is it? Dana White's hand. As soon as he gets done with that, he comes. So this is why I find it funny.
Was Trump next to Dana White?
Yeah. That's
Interesting.
They're like best buddies right now. He shows up to all the UFC fights.
Speaking of billionaires, I'm gonna go back to that.
Oh yeah. Oh, speaking of billionaires.
Yeah, I got some on billionaires.
Oh, okay. Here in a little bit. Yeah. So what I found.
Do you watch the show Billions?
So what I thought was funny, right, is that So this guy, Duplessis, goes from shaking the former president's hand, Dana White's hand. He jumps back into the ring. And this is, I don't know what they should do this. They brought Adesanya into the ring, right? So they have him giving his victory speech. And in the wings, you have Adesanya waiting. And as soon as he gets done with his victory speech, he now has a drunk Adesanya in his face. Do you guys think that after somebody just had a victory, right? It's a great moment for them. Should they be bringing their next opponent that is drunk into the ring?
No.
Yes.
I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the hype going or whatever, but no.
First of all, it went wrong. It went way
First of all,
wrong.
it's not very good sportsmanship. Just leave him in the crowd. Just show his face and remember the whole, oh, I got you. All right, you're next. Oh, I got that belt's mine. Yeah, talk shit that way. But don't bring him back in it. They started doing that. Don't bring him in the ring. And then he's intoxicated.
Yeah. So
I was
gonna
a step too far.
I was gonna download some audio for it, but I was like, I'm not even gonna play the audio. So he came out and he just tried to. So he basically started addressing Duplessis, who is white, just started dropping the N word. He dropped it like 8 times in a row, right? He's like, "What's up, my?"
The guy from South Africa.
Yeah. So Adesanya.
Do we not know the history of South Africa?
Right. So Adesanya goes up to the white guy that's from South Africa, right? So Adesanya's in his face. What's up, my? What's up, my? And he just just was talking all this shit
I thought
to
it was
him.
the white guy to him.
No, the other way around, right?
Never mind. Did you think the same thing?
I actually did not get. Yeah, I was with Tony's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. So
The other way, I've been like, oh, it'd been a whole shutdown.
You're right. So it was just a really bad look for the champ, man. It was just a terrible look for him. And I was a Adesanya fan. I still am, but man, I want Duplessis to beat his ass now. I'll tell you who Duplessis reminds me of. He reminds me of George St. Pierre. He's built like George St. Pierre. He has a lot of. I'm telling you, the dude's bad, man. The dude is bad.
George St. Pierre. He was, awesome fighter or whatever. But he seemed like he was a douche.
Yeah. He's about to fight again. He's coming back for a fight. He's angling for a fight. He's trying to get Khabib out of retirement. Yeah,
45.
He's trying to get Khabib out of retirement, but something's in the works. We might see him in the ring within a year.
Khabib would destroy him.
I think he would too.
We're over in an hour. You want to wrap it up, T.I. or UFC? Anything else?